everybody, and welcome to Malt Muser Whiskey Reviews. I am Eric, and welcome to my best of 2021 whiskey review, where I will be sharing the best whiskeys that I had here in 2021. I'm doing things a little differently this year, so instead of the standard top five, which I've done in the past, I'm actually going to do a winner and a runner-up in 5 distinct whiskey categories. So coming up soon, you will get Irish whiskey, World Whiskey, Rye Whiskey, Bourbon, and Scotch Whiskey. So looking forward to sharing those with you very soon. But first, I do want to just send a huge thank you to everybody who has clicked on a video this year, gave it a thumbs up, left a comment, became a Patreon supporter, sent a super chat. It's been a big year for the channel. I really appreciate everybody contributing and making this such a vibrant whiskey community. And if you've just landed on this for the first time, take a second, hit subscribe, make sure you don't miss anything coming up in 2022. And I am looking forward to sharing a bunch of new whiskeys with y'all and enjoying live happy hours as well every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. All right. With that out of the way, let's get started. Irish whiskey. So my runner-up for Irish whiskey of the year is the Glendalough 13-year-old Mizunara oak cask. So this was a really, really unique Irish whiskey. It's a single malt Irish whiskey and 13 years in bourbon barrels, and then it is finished for some time in Japanese Mizunara oak, which really gives us an interesting kind of sandalwood incense spice note to it. One of the most unique whiskeys I've had, and one of my favorites. Aged 13 years. It is bottled at 46% ABV. This one you can find right around that $90 to $100 mark, but it is getting harder to find here in the United States. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, I highly recommend you go looking for it now. Glendalough 13-year-old Mizunara finished is my runner-up Irish whiskey, which brings us to the winner. It's an empty bottle because I've loved it that much, and it is the NoooooOOOOOOOO Castle 14-year-old twin wood single malt Irish whiskey. NoooooOOOOOOO Castle has been putting out tons of good stuff over the years under their brand name. This one in particular, I think, is really, really just sets the standard for single malt Irish whiskey. It is triple distilled. It is non-chill filtered. You're looking at both a bourbon and sherry cask maturation on this, 14 years old. Everything that you want to see. It is an incredibly complex whiskey. It gives you a lot to taste and try as you kind of work your way through this whiskey. And it comes in at a just incredibly good price. You can find a bottle of the 14-year-old NoooooOOOOOOO Castle here in the United States, anywhere around that kind of $55 to $65 mark, give or take. And if you're looking for a whiskey that has those characteristic Irish traits, but also just a ton of honey, butterscotch, bit of oak spice to carry it through, this is just an incredibly good whiskey at a great price. I highly recommend it, which is why I'm giving NoooooOOOOOOO Castle 14 my 2021 Irish Whiskey of the Year. Rye Whiskey. My runner-up for Rye Whiskey of the Year comes out of Wilderness Trail. This is the Settlers Select Rye Whiskey. These are bottled at cask strength. They are single barrel, and you will find these right around $55 to $60, maybe on the high end, maybe a little bit less. There are just incredibly good stuff. They have been doing great barrel pick selections with stores, including some in my local area. So I've been fortunate to get my hands on yet another one right here. They also say explicitly this is non-chill filtered whiskey. So that is all just great. This one, for example, is at 55.5% ABV. They even give you the information on the mash bill here: 56% rye, 33% corn, 11% malted barley. Really, really excited to see where things go with Wilderness Trail, and I think this is a real hit. Again, like I said, great price on these. And this is really a bourbon drinker's rye. If you are just getting into rye whiskey and you want to taste something of high quality that's not going to blow you away on the spice, but have a really nice balance between kind of the sweeter bourbon notes and then the kind of spicier rye, this is the one to get. Very, very palatable and just freaking delicious. Wilderness Trail Settlers Select Rye Whiskey, single barrel, straight, all the good stuff. Wilderness Trail is my runner-up, which brings us to my Rye Whiskey of the Year. Barrel Seagrass. This is an off-the-wall whiskey if there ever was one, but oh my God, did they nail it. So barrel, is actually a bottler. They source all of their whiskey. And over the years, they have been doing some really, really great experimentation with different types of finishes. And what we have here with the Barrel Seagrass released here in 2021 is a rye whiskey, which is finished in Martinique rum, Madeira, and apricot brandy barrels, bottled at a whopping 59.2% ABV. This is just absolutely incredible. If you are really into trying things that are going to really challenge your palate, expand your palate, Barrel Seagrass is the way to go. It's a competent, delicious rye whiskey by itself, but these different finishes that it is bring all sorts of unique flavor to this, that you find something different a little bit every time you drink it. I absolutely love this. I will be getting another bottle of it. You can find these right around that $75 to $80 mark here in the United States. Barrel Seagrass is the no doubt clear winner of my 2021 Rye Whiskey of the Year. Okay, so that brings us to World Whiskies. So in this category, we're talking about things like Japanese whiskey, Taiwanese whiskey, Indian whiskey, Canadian whiskey, things like that. My runner-up this year is actually a whiskey that came out just last year, and it is the Paul John Christmas Edition 2020. This is just absolutely fantastic. This is out of Goa, India at the Paul John Distillery. You can find these for around $80. Again, this is non-chill filtered, natural color, 46% ABV. And this is the second of the Christmas editions that have been released in the US. There is a 2021 coming out very, very soon if it's not out already. This one, though, really, I think, hit the mark, finding that unique balance between slight peatiness, some sweetness, spice from the virgin oak, and sherry. So you got a couple different finishes going on in this whiskey, plus you just get that unique Paul John barley note, which you really can't find in a lot of other whiskeys. Absolutely adored this one. Again, right around that $80 mark and still pretty available here in the United States. Paul John Christmas Edition 2020 is my runner-up for World Whiskey of the Year, which brings us to the winner. This was a clear winner, absolute no doubter, and that is the Cavalan Solist or cask strength Muscatel Sherry Cask. This one in particular, bottled at 55.6% non-chill filtered natural color. Now, normally I would not select a whiskey that is in this price range. These are somewhere between $400 to $500, sometimes more than that here in the US, as evidenced by the giant, ostentatious, luxurious box that they come in. But let me tell you, as far as barrel quality goes, I don't know if anybody's can do it better than Cavalan, and it is very evident on this. This whiskey has so much just rich, elegant sherry notes quality that you're getting off the Muscatel casks here. It still has some backbone of the actual malt itself, and it plays harmoniously well together. While these will vary depending on the year that you purchase them, if you are an absolute lover of sherry whiskey and want to get something that's really just going to take your experience with sherry to the next level, I can't say you'll find very much better than the Cavalan cask strength, single cask Muscatel sherry. Absolutely lovely, wonderful stuff. It has been absolute luck and an honor that I got the opportunity to try this year, let alone get an entire bottle, and highly recommend giving this a try once in your life. If you're looking to splurge on that bottle, this is the way to go. Bourbon. So my runner-up for bourbon of the year this year is cask strength bourbon, and it is the Old Forester 1920 Prohibition style. This one, 57.5% ABV. This is part of their Whiskey Row series and is definitely the standout of the four in that series. It's rich, it's barrel driven, it's got a dark kind of deep texture to it, but it's not overly oaked, a little bit of effervescence. It almost reminds me of root beer, and just an incredible, nice, creamy sweetness to it. The Old Forester Whiskey Row series, in particular, this 1920, are all really stellar whiskeys, but this one is the one to go for sure. Best part is, in a market that is flooded with a lot of different cask strength bourbons, this one you will find right around that $50 to $55 mark, which comes in at a really good price for the quality you're getting. So keep an eye out for this one if you like a strong bourbon. This is the one to look for, Prohibition style 1920 from Old Forester, which brings me to my bourbon of the year. And this one, quite an interesting choice for me. I was really, really impressed with it when I tried it, but that came after being quite skeptical about ever trying it at all. And that is because I have been generally not impressed with sherry finished bourbons. I find that adding sweet on the already sweet corn mash has never really brought a ton of character or frankly like complexity or interest to a lot of bourbons. But I found an exception to that this year and I'm very excited to share it. It is Rabbit Hole Derringer. This is a straight bourbon whiskey finished in Pedro Jimenez sherry casks, 46.5%. This is, I believe, yep, non-chill filtered and has two finish. They use toasted and charred American oak. What I was really, really impressed with this whiskey in particular was just how seamless and integrated the sherry and the bourbon casks are working together on this. It's complementary. The sweetness of the PX actually does stand out. It does bring some kind of dark berry qualities to this. It's an absolute joy to sip on. It's a relaxed whiskey, but definitely brings a lot of complexity and really just no rough edges around it at all. This is incredibly well made. You can find these in the US right now in that $65 to $70 mark. It's a little bit on the pricey side, which usually is going to come with the territory when you have something that is aged in some sherry. But by and large, this whiskey, I think, will impress anybody who is a bourbon fan. And if you are looking to try something a little different, keep an eye out for this one. So I am all about it. Rabbit Hole Derringer is my 2021 Bourbon of the Year. Last but not least is Scotch whiskey. I've had the opportunity this year to have a bunch of really good single malts and blended scotches. And so this was not the easiest one to pick winners in. But before I get into my runner-up and Scotch of the Year, I do want to give a shout out to three others that I reviewed this year here on the channel that I thought were really standouts and worth keeping an eye out for. One of those being Aaron 10, 46% non-chill filtered, natural color, right around $55, $60 here in the US. Absolutely delicious. Its age, well, only 10 years, belies its actual complexity. It's a rich whiskey, a lot of kind of butterscotch, toffee notes, really citrus, a lot to find here in this whiskey, and definitely a good palate starter, and honestly, something that you could drink all night. Keep an eye out for the Aaron 10. Second shout out, Glen Alecky, 10 years old. This is batch number 5 of their cast strength release. Absolutely mesmerizingly good stuff. You can find these around $90. This one in particular bottled at 55.9%. It's non-chill filtered, it's natural color. I think there's 3 different sherry maturations on this. Absolute stunner. Really any batch you find in this is going to be a winner, but this batch 5 in particular, one that I want to get myself a backup of for sure. And a third kind of honorable mention goes to a classic, one of my favorites of all time when I finally got to getting around to review this year, Ardbeg Uigeadail. As the years have went by, this whiskey has still maintained a good level of quality with each and every release, something that I've noticed a lot with the Ardbeg 10 as well. It's near cast strength, 54.2%. It's non-chill filtered. It's natural color. It is a punchy, heavily peated Islay whiskey with a bit of sherry in it just to give it some more complexity. Absolute stunner. The notes you get on this, barbecue, you'll get some of that road tar, that kind of coal ash stuff you get from Ardbeg, a bit of that sea notes. It's just fantastic stuff. These are right around that $85 mark. And I definitely recommend always having one of these around, which gets to my runner-up. My runner-up for Scotch Whiskey of the Year is the Bunnahabhain Moynia Red Wine Bordeaux Cask Limited Edition. This is about 9 years old. It is a vintage statement. This was bottled in 2018. It is non-chill filtered natural color, 58.1%. And it is all matured in red wine Bordeaux casks. This is a heavily peated version of Bunnahabhain, and quite frankly, one of the best whiskeys I've ever had. To be completely honest with you, the amount of complexity you get on this, the richness, the way that the red wine cask is balancing and interacts with this heavily peated malt Bunnahabhain uses in this is something magical. It really is. And While this whiskey, unfortunately, is not very easy to come by, if you do find it on a shelf anywhere, you may see it in that $150 to $200 mark, which I would say buy without hesitation, but or else you'd be looking at secondary markets. I'm very, very lucky to have had my hands on this, and this is something I'm going to enjoy for some time. I can't say much more about it. It's really just that good. So keep an eye out for this. Bunnahabhain Red Wine Bordeaux Moynia, 2018, so it's about 9 years old. This is my runner-up for Scotch Whiskey of the Year, which comes to my winner. And I won't bury the lead anymore. The winner of my 2021 best Scotch whiskey I tasted this year is the Tamdhu Batch Strength number 5. I was just completely blown away by how delicious this was. I've had a lot of sherry bombs in my day, and I'm thinking about things like Aberlour Abena, for example. This takes it to the next level. And what I mean by that, not only is this aged completely in sherry oak, it is non-chill filtered, it is natural color, it is bottled at 58.9% ABV on this bottling. But the sherry doesn't overtake the entire malt. I find that in a lot of heavily sherried whiskey, sometimes all you taste is sherry. Not the case with this. The balance and marriage of how all of these things are working together, the malt and the sherry, is just nearly perfect. One of the best whiskeys, quite frankly, that I've had in terms of big sherry bombs in quite some time. And I would put this up with some of the best ones that you can get on the market. The bottle of the Tamdhu Batch Strength number 5, still relatively easy to get your hands on here in the United States. It's going to fall right around that $90 mark, give or take. If you like sherry whiskey, this is a must buy. If you just appreciate Scotch and the way distilleries balance out the maturation and influence of their barrels with the malt that they use, this one is going to be one of the best examples of that you can find. So I highly recommend keeping an eye out for this. Tamdhu Batch Strength number 5 is my 2021 single malt Scotch whiskey of the year. All right, y'all. So that was fun, and I'm looking forward to continuing with the whiskey reviews and the whiskey live streams in 2022. I hope everybody has a wonderful New Year's, and I will see you then. Salon, y'all.